Hi, I'm Paul Guppy. I'm Vice President for the Washington Policy Center, and this is the update on our latest projects and one important events and activities that we have coming up as we go into summertime. And first is just a quick update on some of our intellectual and research work. So Elizabeth Hovde, our healthcare expert, is again very much on top of the long-term care payroll tax law that the legislature passed. She is really the most recognized independent expert on this issue statewide. It's turned out to be very controversial because the payroll tax is so heavy to create this new program. And her work was so successful at advertising the problems with this, and it became so unpopular as people found out about it last fall, that the legislature actually delayed implementation of that new payroll tax long-term care program from last January 1st, when it was supposed to start, until the summer of 2023. So what the majority Democrats did in the legislature, along with Governor Inslee, is they, once again, this is the second time, they delayed this program and pushed it off 18 months into the middle of next year, which of course puts it beyond the next election. And that's clearly what they're shooting for. From our point of view, as a policy organization, delaying a bad program doesn't do anything to improve the program. And so this heavy payroll tax is now coming on July 1st of 2023. Nothing has changed about the program. The legislature made some tweaks to it, but it's fundamentally in place. It's not going to be very effective even for those who were able to get the benefit. So that problem remains, and Elizabeth is on top of this and will consistently be commenting about it. And she has a new study coming out, which just gives the whole overview of how we got where we are and provides recommendations to lawmakers about what they can do about this program. Our recommendation in this case is go back to the drawing board, is we think it should be repealed. It's extremely unpopular. More than 400,000 people tried to opt out of it before the legislature cut off the deadline. And now they won't let anybody else out of it anymore. It's mandatory for everybody. So that problem still remains, and we're going to stay on top of it as we get into the next legislative session and continue to propose our solutions. Another example of a study we have coming up is Lee Finna, our education expert, is working on a review study of the impact of 2 years of school closures and mask mandates during the COVID emergency crisis, when the governor ordered all of the schools to be closed in March of 2020. Many private schools and charter schools reopened shortly after that, but public schools remain closed. So now we have data on what impact that had on learning loss, psychological and emotional, social impact on children. We're pulling that all together in a short report, again, in order to show legislators to learn lessons from what we did wrong during the COVID crisis, overreacting, shutting down the economy, shutting down schools. And now we have data that shows that that didn't provide much public health benefit. It didn't stop the spread of COVID, but it did have a major negative impact on learning by children, which will be lasting into the future. And again, we want lawmakers to not just shuffle this aside, but instead really review the action that they took, look at the results that came out, and then learn lessons from that, so that the next time we go into a crisis, we again don't overreact by shutting down the economy, shutting down schools, quarantining people in their homes. If we don't learn lessons from the experience that we went through with the COVID emergency, we'll end up just repeating those same problems again in the future. And then looking ahead, we have a new study coming out regarding a wide range of reforms and ideas for the legislature after the next election. We'll have a new legislature in January, and we are working right now to put together an agenda for candidates and office holders to look at, to be part of the public debate. It's entirely bipartisan, and it provides practical ideas about how to fight inflation, reduce taxes, improve the business environment, have better schools, increase energy supplies to lower the cost of gas, just practical ideas that our state can implement in order to get us through the coming recession or whatever economic problems that we're having. And people are experiencing recession-like conditions today with prices that we're seeing in the supermarket and at the gas pump. So our Agenda for Reform program looks forward to what lawmakers can implement during the next session. After the next election that we're having this fall, we'll have a new legislature, and we're going to provide fresh ideas for them to look at. And then from there, we are continuing to do our kind of media outreach and direct online commentary. So Washington Policy Center is more of a news and commentary production organization now. We have direct access online. We're doing our Policy Perspectives commentary show. We do regular weekly on-the-go update events with our own experts, and we're also inviting outside experts to provide commentary as well. We'll continue to do that. And our new president, Mike Gallagher, is holding a series of president lunches around the state. So in the next few months, he'll be visiting Gig Harbor, Bellingham, Yakima, meeting with our supporters, inviting new donors and supporters to come and hear him. It's just a way for him to get introduced to folks around the state and to tell them about what Washington Policy Center plans are going forward. And with that, I will wrap up. We are going to continue to work right through the summer, again, preparing ahead for these issues that I mentioned. And the reason for that is that Washington Policy Center really is tenacious on these issues. We have found that consistent attention, careful research, and broad-based media outreach is the best way to have impact on issues. You don't work on something for a couple of weeks and then lose interest and drop it and move on to other things. We noticed that our kind of intellectual opponents on the left create pop-up organizations all the time. They're active for a couple of weeks or months, and then they fade and they disappear. Washington Policy Center's approach is consistent, high-quality research and attention on issues in order to provide information to our members across the state, to the general public, and to policymakers to make life better for all of us here in Washington state. And with that, I'll wrap up, and I'll have another report in the future. Thank you.